What is up, guys? Welcome to week 14 of the Bad Beat and Ryan the Rock all in
Oh,
Bad Beat Price and Ryan the Rock podcast.
this is like week 3 in a row that you've screwed up the intro. It's like the first
Yeah,
10
I
words,
know.
Bryce.
I need to write it down. It's just embarrassing
Read
at
it
this
off a
point,
note
man.
card. What did F&M teach you? Unbelievable.
Apparently nothing.
Unbelievable. But how are you, man? How have things been going for you lately?
Doing okay. I got the fresh cut, looking
I see.
good.
My
Poker's
hair
been
is...
going all right. Yeah, everyone needs a haircut after we've been quarantined for so
Hey,
long.
I mean, I've been lucky. I get the sides trimmed every once in a while for my girlfriend's mom, who still remembers from when she used to cut her kids' hair, and it looks fine. So, for
This
now
is
it
my first
suffices.
cut back. I've been shaving myself.
Yeah.
It looked okay, but this
It
looks a
did.
lot
You did
cleaner.
fine, to be honest with you. I'm
Yeah.
impressed.
Appreciate it. But yeah, so this week we've got another guest, which we'll introduce in a little, and we're talking about Ryan Depaulo's recent tears online, as well as the decision on whether or not people should go professional. I posted something on my story, and it got a ton of responses.
Yeah, it
Probably
did.
got like 60 DMs, some crazy amount like that. Had some great conversations with people, so figured we'd touch upon that a little bit. So if you somehow live under a rock, Ryan the Degenerate Depaulo first kind of got recognition. Well, he's won a vlogger, but from
Yeah.
cashing the Colossus, he final tabled the
Yeah.
Colossus,
Came in
and
third.
yeah, he came in third for a sizable amount. I
I think
can't remember the
it was like
amount.
300 and something thousand. It was
It
unbelievable.
was
By the
that
way.
much.
Yeah, it was that much. Colossus was
Oh,
huge
what?
that year. It had like, oh my goodness, ridiculous number of entrants.
That's crazy. 208K.
208,
Yeah,
not 308. That's
had
what
to
it is.
fact check myself.
All good.
But yeah, it's so sick. So, anyways, he actually doesn't live in Jersey. He lives in New York, so he had to drive and was playing in a Whole Foods parking lot.
Parking lot.
So the event was $500 buy-in, and he ended up winning for 159,000 and the bracelet, all from the Whole Foods parking lot. The amazing thing about this, Ryan, is during this tournament, he did some crazy stuff. He quite literally skated with some kids in a skate park during the tournament.
Really? I didn't hear
pissed
about
in
that.
bottles. Yeah. Oh, dude.
Oh yeah, I heard about the peeing in
And
the
then
bottles.
when he
Classic.
won, if you haven't seen his Instagram story, it's
the
probably
best
gone now.
thing.
It's probably everywhere.
No, he's got the
I'm
video.
the best.
I'm a
And just, like,
legend.
oh,
And then there's
it's
literally
so
someone
sick.
walking into the Whole Foods because it is 4 o'clock in the morning. Like sun is barely rising. This man's been playing poker nonstop for 12 hours and peeing in McDonald's cups. And then, wins a bracelet. I can't even imagine. Talk about an unbelievable experience. Most people, when they win a WSOP bracelet, it's a huge thing. He gets to invite all of his friends like he did at Colossus. Like his vlog
Yeah.
was hilarious because
It was amazing.
all of his friends and people were showing up, and he was like, he makes the joke he made the joke all the time during those vlogs where he was like, if you told me I would have been final table at the Colossus 6 months ago, I would have smacked you and said you were
I
wrong.
think he posted his bank account. It had like, I don't know, not much, maybe
Yeah.
20,000 like max, but like
Yeah.
his bank account is like, oh, it's so
So
crazy.
good for him, man.
Hopefully he doesn't punt it. He's actually a pretty good. He's a decent poker player.
He is.
I mean, obviously he won. I was watching him last night on stream. Berkey was streaming, and he was sitting next to Berkey for hours. He actually cashed.
Yeah, he was.
It was
I
like
saw him tweeting about
a
it.
3,300-ish tournament.
Yeah.
And he cashed for like 10 grand, so like 7 grand profit.
He knocked out
But
Chris
I-
Ferguson on the bubble.
Yes, he did. He bubbled Chris Ferguson. A lot of people were happy about that just because of the scandal back in the day. He's not
Yeah.
exactly the most popular person in poker. But yeah, so just a crazy year for Ryan Depaulo.
And one more thing about it before we transition away from it is that do not let this make you think that like anyone can win a bracelet. Because yes, I guess that is kind of the story. But at the same time, don't take anything away from this man. There were 2,457 entrants and he won. You could chalk it up to whatever luck you want to.
There were some suckouts along the way.
Oh,
I think he had
absolutely.
King Deuce when he. Oh wait, no, that was yesterday. Actually, I can't. No,
He's
What tournament was that?
But what tournament have you ever been in your life where you didn't need at least not need, but
you
at
have
some
to
point
run
you
above
sucked out
average
real
to
hard.
even get in the money. Like, you
Yeah,
gotta,
much
it's a
less
tournament.
FT. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
Good for him,
So-
though. I'm so happy.
Absolutely. He's definitely entertaining. I hope he doesn't blow it all to video poker, but if he does, he'll document it. Hopefully he just monetizes it on YouTube and makes some money.
Makes it all back. It's fine. Break even.
But, Yeah, so I think that about covers that topic, but very
Yeah,
happy for Ryan Depaulo, and we'll try to get him
that's
on the
awesome.
podcast one week.
Yeah, fingers
I'll shoot him
crossed.
a message.
Yeah, I'll just DM him on Twitter, see what happens. He
Why
might come
not?
on.
Why
You never
not?
know. He's the only person I could think of who would be like, "Oh yeah, are you kidding? Why not? I got
We
time."
got to get him now before he blows up even more.
Exactly. Oh my
But
god.
anyways, yeah, so on my story I posted I believe I said, would you rather make
Yep.
$75,000 in a shitty 9 to 5 or
Yep.
make, I think my arbitrary number is 44 or 45K in
Yeah,
poker.
40 or 45.
And most people said poker, which I just find incredibly interesting. So what brought that topic up is a few things. So one, there was a discussion between Doug Polk and Jamie about the 100K benchmark as basically making it in poker. And basically, Doug thought that you needed a minimum of 100K, but they also described how it's very different. If you're a 23-year-old living in your mom's basement, the living expenses you need are very
They're
different
different.
from a 30-year-old with 2 kids and a wife.
Right.
But also, there's just so many expenses people don't think about. Like when you're at work, normally, if you work a full-time job, you have your insurance covered, dental, healthcare, all that good stuff, as well as a lot of employers have like 401ks and all that good
Yep.
stuff. So, being self-employed, you can set up a lot of this stuff declaring as a professional poker player, but that insurance comes out of pocket. You have to pay hundreds of dollars a month, $500-600 a month, which is just an added expense that you have to account for, as well as the issue of taxes. I 100% do not suggest evading taxes. One, just for the moral standpoint, but secondly, if you want a mortgage or anything like that, you have to have declared income. And
Right.
if you want to invest any of that good stuff, like money in lockboxes does you no good. But
Right.
anyways, so in this discussion, also where you live. So Chris lives in California. So he messaged me yesterday as well about how it's just very different if you're living in anywhere else.
I entirely
But,
agree.
so what are your thoughts? If you had to pick an arbitrary number, what would it be? How much emphasis you put on happiness? I actually am happy that a lot of people pick that, but I also think that for a lot of people, poker might be a pipe dream. And if you have $5,000 in the bank and want to quit your job and become a poker pro, that is a horrible idea.
Right.
Do not do that.
Don't.
And
Don't.
yeah,
I mean,
I
you
think
know,
there's a lot of. Sorry, one last
No, you're
comment.
good.
There's a lot of security in having
Yes.
a paycheck come in. You don't want your livelihood to be based off some stoned European one out you on the river. So what are your thoughts, Ryan?
I totally agree. I think, the certainty of having a job and having a salary is really important, and it provides you a sense of stability. And I think, would my mindset be different if I were in like my mid 20s and I was, single with, I don't even know. I think the problem is what comes into effect is we've had a conversation with one of our dear friends and only 2-time guest ever on this podcast.
So this is also what brought this topic up. A good
Right.
buddy of ours is considering going pro and quitting his stable
Right.
70 to 80K job a year because he's just fairly miserable in it. And it's actually interesting. He voted in this poll. What do you think he voted, Ryan?
I mean, I think he voted. You probably voted for the poker side, I would imagine.
He didn't.
No.
Which I think the sheer fact that he did that makes me think that he's
He
not
shouldn't
gonna
quit his 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the funny things is that I really liked one of the points that Evan brought up where he had this video. I can't remember who it's from, so I can't give them credit for the concept. But playing poker for fun versus playing for profit versus playing for income.
Absolutely.
And that's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of people from the people who are doing it for fun to the people who are doing it for a living. And the difference between those two marks is huge. The amount of time
Absolutely.
you have to be prepared to dedicate, the amount of effort you have to be willing to put in, and the amount of time you have to invest into it. Poker is fun while you're sitting at the table and you're doing stuff, but if you aren't putting in just as much time off of the felt as you are on the felt, you're going to get destroyed by people these days. And especially at the stakes that would be necessary to make a reasonable living, like 2-5, that player pool is generally speaking more well versed in poker than your normal 1-2. So, for the people who are 2-5 grinders for a living, they'll tell you it's not as easy as it looks. And,
Absolutely not.
Just because you watch Brad Owen and Andrew Nemi and you think, oh, I can do that too, like, sure you can.
I mean, also, we're talking about Brad Owen. Chris made the comment that he made more money from YouTube. He did. He only made like $1,000 last year. I think he made like 37K or something the year before from poker, which is respectable, but also like, do you want to live off 37K?
Yeah.
Obviously, he also is making money from appearance fees, YouTube, all that good stuff. Like, he's fine financially. But people looking to play 2-5, like, the games might be incredibly juicy on the weekends. But if you go to a Wednesday during the day game, like, you're playing good players, and your win rate's not going to be nearly the same
good. Right.
that it would be on the weekends in those juicy games.
Right. And I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's good to separate things. And, we had this conversation on this podcast with Think Blue Poker. And one of the conversations that we had was about bankroll management. And one of the things that he brought up was the most important thing for him was separating his bankroll from his personal budget. And that's a real struggle when your income is coming from poker, because then, like we were talking about with those expenses, you have to be not only making enough to keep up with your expenses, but then more on top of it so that you're saving, putting money away and those sort of things. So it's hard when poker becomes your sole source of income because, usually for us, our bankroll is entirely separate. And for you, now everything's in this. And if you screw this up, that's your one bucket of money.
Yes and no. So in discussing it, they said basically you need 30 grand of that 100 grand specifically for your poker bankroll. Their assumption was that you're living off 4,000-ish in expenses a month. So they're only setting aside about like 35K for a bankroll.
Yeah, fun fact, Bryce and I both worked in financial services. I work in financial.
Yeah, we did.
No big deal.
Both from Mass Mutual.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm still licensed for another few months.
I'm still licensed for another few months. Get out of here.
Yeah, you got it. But yeah, so we very much have pretty analytical minds, I guess. And when we see people doing poor bankroll management decisions, such as trying to go pro off $5,000, 5 buy-ins in 2-5.
In 2-5, yeah, it's not going to happen.
I actually know a buddy of mine who grinds MGM, won 3 games, and has made a living off that. His win rate, I think he says, is about $60 an hour, which is pretty impressive, but honestly not shocking for MGM National Harbor.
Yeah.
That game is just so sick. But anyways, getting back to the topic at hand, there's no issue with playing for fun. And Chris, when we had him on the podcast, that's his goal, and that's okay. Playing for fun doesn't mean you don't want to make money. It just means you're not necessarily putting in the same amount of study hours. You're not necessarily tracking everything. There's no issue with that. If you want to play once a week, or I mean that's a decent amount. If you want to play once a month or play with some home games with your buddies, there's no issue with that.
Just make sure you set aside a certain amount of money that you're willing to lose, like with anyone else. But you're more willing to lose it because you think you might.
If you have an addictive personality, I personally think you should stay away.
Stay away.
However, if you do, don't bring your credit card in. Take out some cash and just leave the credit card, debit card at home.
Yeah,
but,
don't.
I mean, if you have a addictive personality, you should probably stay away.
I agree.
I actually do have a pretty addictive personality, but I've been able to very much separate the poker world, and I've learned a lot about emotions. I think poker teaches you a lot about yourself, and I honestly think it helps you in life deal with when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
As a poker player, Chase Bianchi posted his results, and he made, I think, about 120K in poker last year. And I think it was his worst year in poker in the last 5 years.
Right.
And the interesting thing about it is his amount of winning sessions, I think, was 55%. He only won 55% of the time. I mean, he's playing pretty nosebleed stakes, like 10-25 plus, 25-50, all that good stuff. But you're going to lose a lot. And if you can't handle that, I know a lot of people who have incredibly competitive personalities who come into poker, and they just can't take losing. I hate losing.
Right.
Sometimes when I lose, I'll lose in a 30-60 game, $100. It's not about the money. $100 it's not changed my life at all. But like, it's upsetting because I hate losing. But I've learned
100% agree.
I've just learned to let it go. And like, people lose. Like, one session, one hand does not define you. It's about the long run, zooming out on that graph, and just poker teaches you a lot.
It does. Accountability is important, man. You got to be accountable to yourself, to your friends, and especially to your poker studies.
Absolutely. And for the recreational players who aren't putting in their sessions, you got to track that. I know
You
it can
do.
be tough when you have a losing session. The last thing you want to do is go into your phone, go into
Put it
Excel,
in
whatever it
there,
is, write
yeah,
it
and like
down.
look at
Like,
the
it
graph,
sucks.
and you're like,
But,
oh,
like, you got to do it. You got to
you
hold
do,
yourself accountable, even
you
if it's
do.
just to know how much you've lost so you stop playing if you can't afford it.
So you can pace yourself. Exactly. You
Exactly.
can't know where you're at if you don't track it.
Absolutely. So I think we've gone a little in the weeds there, and hope
It's
you
all good.
enjoyed
We
that
had to.
conversation. So now we're bringing in a good buddy of mine that I actually first met at a Brad Owens and Andrew Nemi meetup game at Maryland Live, and we've become good friends since. We've grinded online together. Can't wait to grab some beers with him, play with him some more. Without further ado, welcome the homie Frog to the stream. Oh, what an intro! How's it going, buddy?
Nice, thanks, bud. Going good, man. Going real
Good.
good.
Good
That's
to
awesome.
hear.
Closing on my first house on Friday, and getting ready to
Yeah.
grind
That's
this 1-2
awesome.
session in a little bit, and
Yes, sir.
things firing on all cylinders.
That's
Firing on
awesome.
all cylinders. I've been playing really well. I did some studying and just really getting back into the swing of things. So things
That's
good.
good to
Things are
hear.
looking up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to focus on anything else when you're buying a house. Quite the
Yeah,
undertaking.
absolutely.
When do you move
Yeah.
in? So the close is almost done, and when do you move in? Move in.
So we close on Friday at 11.
Awesome.
And I plan on Friday afternoon and Saturday, I plan to put in recess lighting and then move on Sunday.
Wow.
Is the big plan. And then I even told my boss, I was like, I might need Monday off as well. But they're pretty
It's quite the
they're
undertaking.
pretty understandable about stuff like that. So
Dude, that's
Yeah.
so awesome. Congratulations,
for sure.
Yeah.
man. That's
Especially
really
especially
so
like
cool.
thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Of course.
It's
So
Also trying to keep up with you guys and the poker world and the girlfriend and
Hey.
the family and the friends. So
the
Exactly.
girlfriend should probably come before us, but I like that. I like that list.
I like that energy. That's the right energy. That's what we need. I love it, man.
Poker
It's
was
crazy.
first. Poker was first.
It's cool. I think, for me being obviously a few years away from owning a house, it's got to be so exciting to be at that point. Cause like, I'm just at the point of, having just moved out of my house and being independent truly for the first time. Can't even imagine what the feeling must be like to close on a house. Congrats. That's just so cool. Good for you, man.
Oh, dude. Thank you. I'm
But
ecstatic.
now we got to transition to some poker questions. Okay. Okay.
All right, you want to hit him with the first
Yes,
one,
sir.
Ryan?
Coming straight out of the gate here.
That's back into the
Back.
bankroll management. I got to
Yeah,
manage
yeah.
my money a little
Yeah,
differently.
exactly. I get it. Buying a house can't be gambling. It's gonna scare the girlfriend, scare everyone. Gotta have the
Yeah.
house. But first and foremost, biggest question right off the bat: what is your favorite hand in No Limit Hold'em? Are
Correct.
you, is there one hand specifically that it's just like your favorite?
I love looking down at Jack Queen suited as much as it's just a pretty hand.
Any specific suit, or just the good
I
old
don't know,
Jack Queen suit?
super
and you can well, and because I think it has, you have decent blockers. It
Yeah.
can be 3-bet, it can be flat based on position. It has a lot of pre-flop playability. And it's like what's it, like 30% of a royal flush? So who doesn't want that?
Exactly. That's so funny because we ask or try to ask everyone that question, and we get some people like Ben who are
Mhm.
like 10-7 is my favorite hand. It's just like, wow, that's a strange
Yeah.
pick. Like the odds of you flopping well with 10-7 are just not very good. Like mine's
Some
9.
people just have a
but,
lucky hand.
some
Right.
people just have a lucky hand. That's interesting that you picked.
Yeah.
'Cause Queen Jack, in my opinion, Queen Jack is my least favorite hand because I just don't flop well with it. So I think it's
Really?
just different. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
No,
yeah,
I'm not saying I flop well with it. I'm just saying it's my
it's your favorite hand.
You
Fair.
you look down, and if it's
Totally
not
fair.
aces, it's queen jack suited.
Yes,
That's
sir.
fair. So the question we like to ask everyone is just, how did you get started in poker? What's your story?
Honestly, my family started playing when I was like 12 years old. They would all get together every Friday night and pay like nickels and dimes in like a jar they'd throw their money into. And I just asked if I could sit down and play one day and started playing. And then started watching it on ESPN, and I watched Moneymaker win the bracelet. And I just kind of took off from there.
That's awesome.
And I was
Wait,
actually I was a lot more aggressive back then than I am now. I was way more of an aggressive opponent.
really?
And what really got me hooked was my uncles are like decent players, I guess. And dude, I was like 13 years old and bluffed my uncle off this huge pot. I mean, huge pot. It was like a $30 pot. But
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, when you're playing with pennies and
quarters
nickels and
whatever,
dimes, that's a big pot.
right? And dude, I had a stone cold bluff with nothing but deuces on the river, and he folded, and I flipped it up, and he literally like lost his shit and was like, "This is why we don't play with like 13-year-olds," and it was a whole big thing. And to this day, it's like the poker story of the family. But
That's so funny.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
I apologize for the cat. My brother's cat staying over for the weekend. This is why.
No worries. The viewers will probably think he's cute.
no worries, dude.
He is lovely.
What's the name?
Maud, Maude. She's lovely. And she's here on the desk with me.
Okay.
So we normally save this question for the end, but what would you say your craziest poker story is? I don't know if you listen to Chad's. It wasn't even necessarily a poker story. It could be something you've seen, crazy hand play out. We don't necessarily love the bad beat stories, but something you've sseen at the table, anything of that nature.
Honestly, that pocket deuces hand probably still
Up
ranks
there.
number. Or
Probably,
you
yeah.
know what? I got another more recent one. It's up there. Another more recent one. I was playing a home game tournament against some very recreational players, very soft table.
Yeah.
But it was my first time at these people's houses. It was like 16 to 18 people, $50 buy-in.
Wow.
And it was a good game. And I just remember like I was in the big blind and I looked down at 6-4 offsuit and was like, great. And the blinds are like astronomical at this point, but I was also chip leader. And everybody limps in, so I check. And the flop comes 6-4.
Or exactly.
And the guy in the small blind jams. The guy in the small blind jams, and everybody else calls. And I call, and I flop the nuts.
Everyone
the whole thing
called?
right there.
On what
And I was
board is
like,
everyone calling?
Oh my god! Yeah.
So did you just win the
I
tournament
think
and bust
somebody
everyone?
had in one shot, one hand. It was insane.
Whoa!
What did they
It was
have?
insane.
5-7?
It was insane.
Ace-6?
I think some
pocket
guy.
10?
Like
Somebody had a weird overpair
suited
that wasn't
ace,
huge.
and like
yeah.
I think somebody had like a pocket pair. I actually think somebody did hit a 6. Somebody else had the trips. Somebody was probably on like a flush draw. I don't remember all the details. We were doing a little bit of drinking, but
I'd say a lot of bit of
that
drink.
was
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sick.
If everyone's calling a shove.
Yeah, but I was like, I mean, there was like 4 players. I think they were kind of over it at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they
Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
It was
$50,
awesome.
man.
You know, especially with like a
I
hand
have-
like 6-4 suited, like you never expect to ever win there.
That's awesome.
Unless you're Mike
4 offsuit,
Possible.
I mean, you know, like yeah.
Unless you're Mike
Mike
Possible.
Possible is 5-4 offsuit.
He's
You know,
innocent. He didn't do anything. He's innocent.
no, those
That's,
two people
I mean, he got off, so
did.
so
We already
ridiculous.
covered that on this podcast, though.
So that's
Ridiculous.
all you, Ryan.
It's all good. So, next question for you. Now, you play in the casino. You've played everything from 1-2 to 2-5. Are there any other games that you like to play other than No Limit? Or, be it PLO, be it craps? I mean, are there any of the table games you like to play? Any true degenning?
Like,
Ryan Depaulo.
poker's my main thing. But if I'm like with a bunch of friends and they're like, yo, let's go hit the casino, like I'll definitely throw some craps. I'm terrible at blackjack. I don't know what it is, dude. I lose $100 in like 5 minutes. I have zero luck when it comes to blackjack.
I totally get that.
But craps and roulette are usually my 2 go-tos.
Yeah. That's so
It's a good
wild.
time.
I just watching a craps table blows my mind because like I tried to watch a
It's
video
so fun.
on basic craps.
You don't know how to
rules.
play? Buddy,
got
I'll teach
3
you in
minutes
5
in, and I
minutes.
was like, "This is so confusing. There's ends and numbers and points, and I don't know what's going
Pass,
on."
no
dude.
pass, dude. It's
Yeah,
not
pass, no
complicated.
pass. I know.
I'll teach you one time.
That's amazing. Bryce,
My
what's
uncle
next?
told me he read a book about a basic crap strategy, and it's like super, super easy, and it's pretty reliable. So
I love the people who also
I can
train
go over
themselves
with that with you.
to throw them perfectly. Like the people who actually take the time to train themselves.
Oh
to
yeah, who just are so serious about it. I'm like, dude, you have no effect on how the dice are going to come out.
made $1,200 in craps in 45 minutes.
How much
yeah,
were you
I mean,
betting, Chris?
That's pretty good, dude.
Some people have just fat stacks, like on that rail. They just have like hundreds just lined up. Some people are crazy.
Oh,
big,
yeah.
big DJs.
And they're putting just
at
as
the
much
crap
out on
tables.
the table. It's like insane.
nuts. But anyways, the last question before we go into these hand histories are just who is your favorite player to watch and who is your favorite player to basically emulate?
My favorite player to watch, I gotta go with D-Negs, man. Grew up watching Dan and Johnny play
I like
him,
it.
and
Did you see that video of
the
him?
table talk and the trash talk, and which one?
Recently he was
There's
playing
so
online
many.
poker the last few days. If you haven't seen it, go to
Oh,
Joey
and he like
Ingram's
lost
Twitter.
his
Yeah,
shit.
he
Got
lost and
pissed.
started cursing. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'd never.
No, it
seen
was
that.
because
Yeah, I did
he
see
had
that.
like ace queen and he was playing on a Mac, of course, because he was playing on a Mac. His internet wasn't working for him, and it timed him out when he had like ace queen suited in like a 3-bet pot, and
Yeah.
he's
He
like,
would have had top two pair, yeah.
yeah, but him
He
slamming the
literally
table.
like punched his computer. I was like, dude, come on.
If anyone has enough money to pay for a new one, it's D-Negs. I'm like, why are you playing poker on a
Right.
Mac, D-Negs?
It's really
you
funny.
know better than
Yeah.
that.
As far as emulation of a poker player goes, honestly, I probably Andrew Nemeth. He's very calculative in I feel like with things like bankroll, and he's just a very level-headed dude. He's super
Yeah.
chill. He's he's a pro who lives in Vegas, who I totally think, I mean, from like a marketing standpoint, he created his own like
Yeah.
market for people to come
Oh,
play
it's
with
so
him. Like he
sick,
created
man.
his own games, you know what I mean? And I just
Yes.
think like it's just awesome, you know what I mean?
You
Yeah.
get so many people to
And,
live
and he's a
met
really
him.
good player.
fly
So
out.
I've met him, no big deal. He was at MJ.
Right.
We've all
and
met
Brad.
him, Ryan.
Yeah, okay, you're sick. Yeah, at one of those meetup
Yeah.
games. And I think, one of the keys to those poker vloggers is that their content is super consumable for everyone. No, like, there are bits and pieces of it for people like us who care about the poker side, and there are pieces about it for people who are more there for the entertainment. And I mean, the way they run their meetup games, it's so much fun. It's so entertaining. And, a typical 2-5 Wednesday night is usually pretty dry. But when those guys show up, your poker room is full. And you can
We got
pretty
bomb
much
pots, we got
guarantee
flips, we
that.
got double board bomb
Oh,
pots, we got
everything,
deep
yeah.
stacks, we got
And the
beers
bars are making
flowing.
money. Yeah.
It's a good time, man. It's a little
Everyone's
party.
happy. It's great. I'm really,
It is,
I
man.
like that answer. I really do. I agree with you. I think the way Nimi thinks about poker is simple enough that, everyone could kind of understand it. And it's also very much so been profitable for him. So what a good pick.
sure.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, appreciate your answers.
Thanks, man.
So we've got 4 hands for you today, 2 of which are fogs. We'll get right into it.
Let's do it.
Let's
All
get
right.
it. Alrighty, so
Maniac.
on the
And
button.
as per usual, our Paul is not me. It's Fog.
Oh,
Yes,
With
sir.
pocket sixes here.
Cool.
We're
wait.
350 effective in what is a 1-2 game.
Wow, 27. That's a squeeze.
Yep. So it looks like you decide to limp here in the cutoff with
Can you make
six.
that any bigger, Bryce?
Yeah, I can make it a little bit bigger. So what was your logic here, just flatting the 6s when
Sorry.
it's folded around to
Oh, yeah,
you
okay.
in the cutoff?
Honestly, I don't know. 6s is kind of like I kind of figured this guy would raise because he was raising a lot.
Yeah.
It was kind of within the first hour and a half so of the session, and he'd been raising. He's probably getting like at least 85 to 90% of hands.
Oh my gosh.
And he was drinking quite a bit. So I was kind of just like, let me call, let him, and just kind of let him hang himself. And that logic kind of stuck with me throughout the hand as we go through it.
Fair enough.
Okay. So he goes, I mean, also, this is a 1-2 game where there's one limper and he raised to 27. So if you don't think he's a maniac, you probably realize it now. So you could check the flop to him and he then bets the same size as he did pre-flop. On an ace 10-10 board, what do you think?
I felt like it was super. I knew he didn't connect with this board. It felt very blockerish. But at the same time, I didn't really pick up much either. There's a paired board and the ace out there, maniac or not, you could always have an ace.
Right.
And to be quite honest, this is like one of the first playable hands I had this entire session. So I was a little trigger shy, so to speak.
That's a good note as well. That early in the session,
So yeah,
I can see that. No, I totally agree. I think
Yeah.
on these sort of boards, when you check to the aggressor, I think on paired boards, people tend to bet here a lot. And I find myself doing this a lot whenever I'm in positions to pre-flop aggressor on a paired board. I like 99% of the time I'm c-betting unless I just absolutely whiffed. So, I think that while his range is uncapped and he can have aces, for this bet sizing into this pot, I think you're totally reasonable to call here and evaluate turns and then see if he continues to bet and size up on further streets.
Right.
So, I totally agree. I can get behind a call here.
Well,
yeah, you have a lot more
and that was
tens than
that's
he
why
does,
I checked as
obviously.
well, because I kind of wanted to see. Right, and I also kind of wanted to see what his sizing would do and go from there based on like if I was going to just totally bluff at it or if I was going to call based on the price, which I do.
So you mentioned how you considered raising this flop, and I don't think you should ever be raising this flop because if he's calling you, he has a better hand, unless he just decides to literally float you with like Jack Queen, King Queen, and is just that much of a sicko. But with these stack sizes, I just don't imagine anyone, even a maniac, doing so. So if you already think you have the best hand, obviously, like your logics, you might want to protect against it or just take it down. But I don't think that makes much sense because, I mean, most turn cards shouldn't connect with him. Obviously, some could, but most shouldn't. And I think reevaluating turn is definitely the best route because if you re-raise, you're not getting a worse hand to call you. It's not a value raise. It's almost like a raise to see where you're at. And like most of the time, that kind of raise.
100%. Yeah,
I like that. That's a good point, Bryce. Let's see a turn.
Right.
See a turn. So the turn's a really good card for you.
Brick.
Offsuit 5, and he bets 27 again. So I know you mentioned in your text that you thought about raising him again. So this sizing, I think, is incredibly weird. What do you make of it?
It was so blockerish. Like, I don't know. At first, I was like, "What is this guy doing? Who sizes their bets this way? Like, is he drawing? Is he drawing to something?" I was like, maybe he could have like King Jack, Queen Jack. Maybe he's got an ace with a low kicker. I thought maybe he had a middling pocket pair, like maybe sevens, eights. Maybe he actually connected with the 5 and is trying to get me to bluff at it, or over bet raise when he makes the same bet. And I didn't really know what to make of it. And given my hand and the full-on strength of it, I kind of figured, okay, I could still call, maybe hit a 6 based on his sizing, and just kind of see where I'm at. And maybe I can just, if he bets again, depending on his sizing on the river, I could probably either just call and take it down or maybe go for a bluff, depending on whatever. I kind of had
these
all
are
my
interesting
options open
thoughts
at this point in the hand.
Interesting thoughts.
I was very flabbergasted.
Right. I agree. I think generally speaking, when somebody bets the same size pre-flop, flop, and turn, that it is a sign of weakness. So, I agree with everything that you've said about your read. He's laying you about 6-1 odds, so you only need like 14% equity to continue, which technically speaking, if we have him on a better pair than 6s or an ace or something like that after he bets this turn, you don't have that because you're 2 outs, you're probably only 4 or 5% right now. But I agree. I think, the $27 bet is, I don't know if I agree with the word blockerish. I think I agree with that he missed flop and now he's just seeing, if I continue the pressure, will he fold a hand like yours? I think that's really what he's targeting, or like middling pocket pairs that might have floated. But he should have sized up if he really wanted to get you to fold.
I think it's weird. I think he honestly has an ace here most of the time. And here's my logic. I think he almost wants you to raise him, and if he puts in a small bet on turn, if you raise him, he can potentially get away from that ace. Because what are you calling with on flop that folds turn? Especially just bet. Honestly, I think it's a prob bet, I want to see, how strong you are. But again, if you have a 10...
Right.
Do you raise here is the interesting question. Because it's a pretty dry board. Do you... Because I don't think Jack, Queen, King, Jack...
It is super dry, yeah.
Here. I honestly, with the 10 flat here, and let him hang himself on the river.
Right.
That's how I personally would play it.
Right.
So I think
Right.
this leans towards more aces than tens. I think tens would size up to target the ace.
Right.
So I mean, sure, he could be
Mhm.
bluffing here, and you said he's a maniac. So, but I just don't think he'd go this small. I mean, obviously, you're more familiar with his sizes than I am when he's been spazzing off as a maniac. But I think this leans towards a lot of aces. But I actually don't know
Well,
what he
and that was another
has.
thing that was so weird about his sizing.
Yeah.
And that was what was so weird about his sizing is I was like, I even kind of thought about like maybe he has an ace 10 and he's just milking the hell out of me and he's
Yeah,
gonna
I
go for
mean
a big
that's how he
river
plays turn
bet. You
two,
know what I
probably.
mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Just slowly building a pot. Like
He's just memeing you
so.
with the $27 bets.
Especially when there's like no like draws that come in. I mean, obviously there's a straight draw, but it's a paired board. Like, you
Right.
think
That's
someone's
why I
gonna
was
continue
like,
with like
that's
a
why the
gutter?
bet was
Like,
just really
no.
struck me as
Weird.
right. And that was all. I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just go with it and see what happens because a lot of people were folding to his aggression up until the turn. Like I didn't actually see a lot of showdowns, but the couple that I saw, he had
Did he bet 27 on the
second
river?
pairs or
He did.
just draws or stuff like that.
Oh my god.
He did, yeah, all three streets, man. I was like, are you
Oh,
kidding me?
I forgot. Oh
It was
my
so frustrating.
God. Wow.
Oh no.
Okay. So
Oh no.
27. You're calling 27 to win 219.
I actually, as psycho as it sounds, I don't think you can call this river. Like, I know the odds are insane.
Even though it's laying you literally 10 to 1.
Literally, his bluffs all get there.
It was
Right.
strictly
All
an
of them.
information call. That was
Yeah.
all it was.
That's
Is
fair.
I just
I
called to
don't
see what
hate
he
that.
had.
I've done that. I've
I
literally done the same.
All it
I
was.
totally agree with that. And
Yeah.
I for a sizing that small, like even if it is value, I totally can get behind like calling just to see it. Because
Yeah.
just like, come on,
Mhm.
man. Like, how often is he supposed to show up here at Queen Jack that goes bet, 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 all the same sizing? That's just ridiculous.
I mean, you had a good
And,
read.
I did the sit back. Of course, that's what he had.
Yeah. You're like, oh, okay, great, fabulous. You're an idiot. Why'd you play it this way?
Damn, that was a good read on your part. I'm glad
I'm sorry,
I haven't
Bryce.
been.
What, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Queen is possible there sometimes. It's funny that it was also offsuit and he decided to pump it up to $27. And I think that's just so sick. But like, I don't see him doing that with a worse hand. Like, even
Right.
if he has like jacks and is deciding to psycho value bet $27, you're beat. If you're calling for information, I don't hate it. But if you're calling thinking you're somehow miraculously good here,
Good.
some percentage
You're
of the
probably
time,
not.
you're
Right.
probably not.
No, I knew I
wow.
wasn't good. That was a let me see what you got call.
Yeah, makes sense. Did you end up taking your money back from this maniac?
Honestly,
Remember?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It was a while ago,
That's fair. No worries.
like
All right, so
well over a year ago.
next hand.
I hope past me did.
Yeah, did you guys remember live poker? Wow. A long time ago.
That was ages ago. All right. So
That's
I think I
2-5,
have-
baby. 750. This is fun.
I'm assuming this is 1-2. Oh, it's 2-5?
It's 2-5. Yeah.
Nice.
This I think is from the Nemi meetup game. The
Oh,
one that they did
interesting.
at Maryland Live. Yep,
So
first time
we-
playing 2-5.
We talk about this hand, Ryan, a little bit. And you basically said that he should be 3-betting this a large percentage of the time. I definitely like that move in position more, and I think
Yes.
it's very player dependent. I wouldn't
Yep.
look to do it all the time. I definitely 100% send my 3-bet range, no question about it. But also, so what were the perceived images of seats 9 and 3? Obviously, 3 is going to be pretty wide here, just flatting on the button. So
Yep.
if you do, that does make it a better candidate to 3-bet because you really only have to get through seat 9. So what was seat 9's
Right.
reputation, I guess, is the most important question here.
Seat 9 is the. I got you. Honestly,
Oh, you're on
I
your
don't
phone is
really-
also-
I don't fully
okay.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fair. If you can't remember
I
player
don't
profiles.
fully remember, but but from what I do remember, he was a pretty solid player. Most of the time when he raised, it usually meant a decent hand.
Yeah.
I'd seen him show up with a couple of nutted hands, and he was running good. He was playing good. And so yeah, I was honestly, I think I just flatted. I think just
Yes.
to try and honestly, I think I was just kind of like, okay, I'm in position. Let me try and flop well.
Did you mean you're
see
out of
if,
position?
maybe I can outplay him.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. I don't
Yeah.
hate that. I'd look to 3-bet this some percentage of the time. Obviously, very player dependent. He did go 5x. I don't know how loose of a game
Right.
this is or how standard of opening that was, but
Right.
yeah. I mean, a flat's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens on the flop. All right, Jack 3 deuce. We got a gutter ball.
Backdoor nut heart or diamonds.
Diamond. We check about
fine.
a 40 call. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. 40-40 call.
If only one player had bet, do you think you call this?
That's an interesting question.
I might peel one.
Interesting.
Thinking my ace is live.
That's
Even
fair.
That's another
with not a good picker. I also have the backdoor flush draws. And I did maybe put in my hand like ace jack, ace queen, maybe even kings or tens or
If he's that strong, if he's
anything
that
like that.
strong,
Or
I wouldn't actually look to call this hand heads up. 3-way, I think the call is fine. Given your stack depths, if you somehow pick up equity on the turn, totally fine. I think the call is fine. I think if it was just you versus seat 9, with just ace high, I mean, obviously this is a pretty dry board. I'd maybe peel one too. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just very dependent. But
Yeah.
I think the fact that there's more money in the pot. 40 is a pretty big bet though. 40 to 77 on this board. I think
Dry board.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
It
You
looks
could have
like
ace
protection.
king, but ace
Right.
king also has you destroyed.
Right.
So I think he's probably ahead
Right.
of you. I mean, the vast majority of the time.
And one of the other
And
things
when
while
a player calls,
massive,
like,
right.
Right. While you bring it to the turn, I think,
Well,
one
when
of
the
the
player
important
calls, I'm
things-
getting odds now to draw. So
Yes.
No, exactly. That's
Yes.
that's what we're saying.
That's exactly
Okay.
what we're saying.
Sorry.
You're getting 10,
So 197 in the pot. We pick up flush draw. Obviously,
paired
pretty good
board
card.
on the turn.
But pairing the board is not ideal. So 250 into 197. And you decide to flat.
It's an interesting,
dude,
spot.
it was a long tank flat. It was a long. I thought about it for probably a good 2 minutes.
Because here's what we're thinking is if you've identified, because seat 9 has the most uncapped range as the not early, but as the pre-flop aggressor with really no one's really given them the opportunity to cap their range yet. So, we can give them all the overpairs in this scenario. We can give them ace king, those sort of things. Obviously, you block nut diamonds, so he can't have the ace of diamonds, which is an important thing to have. You also block a combination of aces. So if we give them overpairs that aren't aces, you're still drawing live to your ace, you're drawing live to your straight, and you're drawing live to your flush. So that's 3 outs for the ace, 4 outs for your 4,
Right.
and 9 outs for your flush. So, that's 16 outs one time. It's a pretty good amount of equity there. You're still sitting at about somewhere around 30% equity. The problem is when seat 9 overbets pot here. If seat 9 had gone for a more reasonable sizing, I think given the odds that you would have been laid in that situation, you could have called with your draw.
This is also best case scenario. It's a paired board.
Again, best case scenario, because you're right.
100%. Yeah,
also has
100%.
all of the ace jack, has all of the, basically ace jack.
You can have pocket jacks. I don't think he'd play it this way. Obviously, he shouldn't play it this way.
No,
but
Pocket jack.
absolutely
Nothing,
not.
real quick.
He'd be a maniac.
While I was tanking, I did kind of pick up a little bit of a tell, and he genuinely looked worried. He just had a worrying look on his face. He was kind of he'd look at me, and every time I went to look at him, he's kind of looking away.
He look away.
I think if you want to go with your tell,
he was kind of fidgety, So
you have to
I
jam.
thought maybe he could have a jack, to which case I'm still
Yeah,
I was gonna jam.
You can't flat.
Honestly,
you have
but this is
435. Because if he's bluffing, he
Right.
folds, and you can take it down as ace high. Even if he has eights or nines, he might fold. He's not necessarily priced in enough to the point where he has. Because if you jam, does he really think you're just jamming with a backdoor flush draw? You could have a ton of jacks. You know what I mean? I mean, if he has an overpair, he's probably just gonna side call. But if he has nines or tens and just wanted to just lay the hammer for some reason, jamming gets him to fold. If he's bluffing and on the river you get there, you get zero value. And
That's
if you
the problem.
don't get there, you lose the hand. So And if he bets, like, yes, you have
Right.
to fold and you're saving your 435, but your SPR is just so awkward. Like, you don't even have, like, a
You have
full
no
pot size.
Yeah. So you don't have a lot of. You can't produce a lot of fold equity.
Well, and that's
It's hard
part of
for
the
you to
reason I
bluff.
flatted, because even if I jam there, it's in relative to the pot. It's not even a full. It's not even it's not even above a pot raise, pot size raise. So I figured if anybody who overbets that much of the pot's going to call a jam, going to snap a jam.
Interesting.
At the time, that was my thinking. So I kind of was just like, you know what? Let me just go for it. I kind of felt like it was going to hit that time, to be honest with you.
But here's the problem with that thinking.
so-
Here's the problem is that when you hit your ace and when you hit your diamond, you're not going to get paid. The rest of the money's not going to go in when that happens.
Right.
So, the only scenario in which
Right.
you get the full amount
By
is if
jamming.
you hit a 4. And if you hit
Just
the
to
4
jam
that's
it.
not a diamond. So
Right.
there's really
No,
only
I
3
get it
outs
now.
here where you get fully paid. Right. And I think that's what makes this a particularly
Right.
interesting spot is that,
Right.
there's a perfectly good reason for flatting in that you have an obscene amount of equity in this hand, but you can also apply
Mhm.
way more pressure with a jam here. That's going to get you paid, obviously, when you hit the river.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
flats fine.
Right.
So let's see a river. It's king, and you check.
He checked back. What
And
did
it
he
goes
have?
check. I should have.
I don't know why it's not showing. It's
He should pocket queens.
pocket
actually.
queens. I don't know why it didn't
Yeah,
show.
so
Yeah, he
I
should pocket
actually feel
queens.
like he
And I
calls
even
off
asked
with this
him,
hand.
I-
But if an ace comes up, you probably get paid too, honestly. But if a diamond comes, I think he probably folds.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. It's weird. The SPR is so weird. He
You
might
really
just
think he
call
puts me on
anyway.
backdoor diamonds though?
Yeah, but what are you calling with? That's a worse hand. Like, what do you have? Like you tens, nines. Like, is that
Honestly,
gonna jam into
because
him?
I asked him after the hand. I don't know. I asked him after the hand, and I said, "Do you fold to a jam on the turn?"
Yeah.
And he actually said, "Yeah." He was like, "I put you on a jack," which is why I checked back. He was like, "I didn't think you were going to call the
That's
turn
the
bet, and when
thing.
you
If
did, I thought you
if
had a
you
jack."
rip turn,
So even if
he
I
probably
jammed
folds
river,
based on
even if I
Right.
jammed river, he might have got away with it.
Right. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
Mistakes. You
I
live
just
and
don't
learn,
think
right?
I don't think you can jam this river. You can jam the turn as a bluff. I think jamming the I
Yeah.
just don't think you can jam river. Obviously, in this scenario,
Yeah, I have no
it
equity
might
to
have
jam
worked
the
for you,
river.
but-
That's fair.
I mean, obviously,
That's
it's
a
complete
really
bluff,
interesting
though,
spot. I really like that hand.
Damn. Well,
Thank you.
learning experience for
It was
sure.
a tough one,
but
for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard
Yeah.
to fold a hand that has a straight in flush draw. Like, for sure, I understand.
And you're also
Um,
describing something that happened, probably a year ago.
Yeah.
And the way that you play poker now, it has to
Yeah.
be substantially different than it was a year ago, or else I'd hit you because you're doing something wrong if you're
Very
not playing
much.
poker
Yeah,
differently.
no, very much.
Yeah, exactly. So,
very much so.
that's interesting. And given that, would you have played the hand differently now? Do you think you would have been
100%,
more aggressive,
100%.
like a 3-bet pre, and then maybe you would have jammed the
I
turn
definitely would have
nowadays?
3-bet 100%.
That's interesting, and I think that's
100%. I
great. I
definitely
think
would
that's
have
a
3-bet
really
that.
good thing.
Yep.
For sure. But yeah,
Yep.
very much appreciate you submitting these hands and letting us ask you a few questions today. We'll for sure probably try
Yeah,
and
man.
get you back in like 6 months, a year
Yes,
or something,
sir.
see how your journey's going. Congrats again on the house. Keep grinding poker, keep putting in the hours, and
We'll see you at
on the
1-2.
phone, man. Yeah, see you in a bit.
All right, yeah, see you guys.
All right,
Thanks
take
for
care,
having
man. Alrighty, so we got 2 more hands.
Let's do it.
One is from TJ, who submits a lot of hands. Thank you very much. I'm the best, aka T-Bone. We got another hand. Classic TJ Runwell is all I'll say.
Good old 5-handed 30-60. Nothing like that.
We put in the flat. You're soft. You should raise that.
Yeah,
I mean,
again,
I don't hate it.
Nothing, yeah. But here's the problem, is that if you have any limping range, the problem is that people are always going to identify it as weakness. So the problem is that if you're going to limp 5s, you're going to have to limp value hands like aces
Which
and
I
kings.
don't see him doing enough. So
Exactly.
TJ, raise, or start throwing in some.
And
limps
that's
or
the thing is,
something with-
the problem too is with a hand like pocket 5s, where most of your value post flop comes from hitting a set. Opening it pre gives you the ability to inflate the pot so that when you hit your set,
Absolutely.
you're going to get more value. So,
And if you get
besides-
3-bet, like you can, I mean,
you
depending
can
on how
call,
big it
you can
is,
flat,
call,
yeah,
especially this deep.
exactly.
Yeah, that's fine. Alrighty, so why is this not going? All right, it goes check. What the heck? Why is it not going? Guess we gotta
He
zoom out a
bets.
little. We decide to bet half pot.
That's fine.
And we get min raised, which I guess looks like strength. You know, against this specific opponent, I don't hate this. Punit
So deep
likes
as well.
to put money in with top pair. And we are very deep, and of course we're looking to get stacks in with a set.
Right.
Especially, yeah, against this opponent. I don't hate it. It's really big. When you get min raised, you 4x it back. Shows some strength.
It's a little. That's the thing is, I think that this plays a little bit more reasonably if it's anywhere from like 21 to 25 at the top end.
Yeah, 21. I think 28's too big. Even if you get 21 in, you can still bet huge on turn and get the money in on the river.
And I think TJ's contention to that would probably be look at Punit's stack and just how deep he is. And I do agree to some degree that the size of his stack makes him a little bit inelastic to your sizing here, where because he's so deep, there are some hands he's going to be willing to make a call with. But, there's not a lot of draws that are out here other than like Jack 10 and, maybe Ace Jack, but that's only a gutter. There's not a whole lot.
King 10 or worse here, I'm snap folding.
Yeah, exactly. To your huge sizing. I am.
King Jack. I still probably
King Queen.
To be honest with you, I put you on King Queen.
Around.
King Queen.
Yeah.
I'm not folding King.
Yeah,
Queen.
absolutely
not. But yeah, I think it's a little too big. But turns pretty good.
Well, that makes your life pretty easy.
Good old quads.
I love the check. Love the check. I think
check.
In the long run, you're definitely going to get more money out of people by checking there with quads than you are by betting it.
I agree. I mean, if you want to bet like third pot, I mean, he probably is a king at this point and probably isn't folding. And if he has a hand like 10 Jack or something, Punit isn't folding.
Right.
So like, I think it checks fine though. I mean,
and then I like the jam on this river as well, just because.
Obviously, you jam.
I mean, you do. You have less than pot back as well. So, your SPR is fine for a shove here. I think you're getting calls from a lot of two pair combos, king queens, queen jacks of the world are definitely going to be calling you there. I believe
he had king jack.
He did. He had king jack,
I think.
And you know what? I think it's a bad call. For a lot of reasons, not the least of which being that with king jack, you block a lot of possible combinations for hands that you're beating.
You think it's a bad call?
With king jack?
If you're gonna call flop, I think you have to call river. Like, how many fives does TJ have? Unless he has I mean, he could have pocket queens or something, but you also block pocket kings and block pocket jacks. I don't think it's a horrible call, to be honest with you.
That's interesting, but I also would make the contention that you unblock hands like ace 10, which is, a straight 10-9, which is a straight, which are possible given that he flatted out of the small blind. Where's my cat? Oh my goodness.
Fair. All right, we got one more hand for you guys. Let me pull it up. Is this your hand? No,
it's a non-fish. It's all the way at the bottom.
He submitted it to you?
No, actually, an interesting point. We were playing in the Sunday Deep Stack, and Anonymous, whose real name is Jamie, and I are friends, and we were at the same table. And this spot came up during the tournament, and I was at the same table. I'm pretty sure I'm in the cutoff here. I'm seed 8, and I had folded anyway, so I watched this hand go down, and then I saw showdown, and then immediately I had like 8 questions for Jamie that I just immediately texted to him, being like, "Why did you play it this exact way?" So this is a really interesting hand. So our Paul is Jamie and Onafish, and we're in the big blind here with King Queen offsuit. We see under the gun 1, or really,
who's a good player.
Yeah, an open, and there's 2 flats before it gets to us. I think it's reasonable to flat here with King Queen.
Oh, sorry, let me pause it. I'm too interested in what happens this hand.
Yeah, I think.
Don't check. No, I know you have the King of Clubs in your hand, but don't check. I actually think a flat against this specific player is fine pre-flop with King Queen off.
Well, the problem is you're also lining yourself up for a 4-way pot, and with King Queen.
Oh yeah, I thought it was 3-way. Jeez, yeah,
no, it's 4-way pot.
Because Digi absolutely is weak, and Yoman's is just playing nearly any 2.
Right.
So I actually would look to 3-bet. I thought it was.
That's what I'm
3-bet.
saying. Is given that it's a four ways, if you flat here with a hand like King Queen, that's probably going to flop pretty well. I think, with suited combos versus non-suited combos, I feel like with the offsuit combos, I'm more likely to raise here than I am with my suited combos.
That's incredibly interesting. But I see your point. When you flop the Nutter Butters 4 ways, I do not think you can check this. Because I think if you have a hand like ace 10 is not betting, but ace 10 will call.
Right.
If you have queen 6,
right, we're in a 4-way pot. Like, no one is expecting you to show up with king queen in the big blind here. Yeah, no one.
They aren't expecting you to show up.
Right, so that makes it more reasonable for you to bet it.
Someone bet, and it checks around, which is the worst case scenario.
Worst
you have the
case
clubs in your hand,
scenario.
So many cards are just so bad for you.
Correct. And
that's a good card for you.
That's a great card.
I mean, obviously, a flush gets in, but you block the nut flush.
What flushes exist?
I don't think it's a great card, because aces you will get paid from, and it puts in some 2 pairs, like ace 9, ace 10.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think a lot of flushes exist. You could be up against 6, 7 of clubs that decided not to.
In a 4-way pot, yeah. I think you expect someone like
pretty
DD
dead
and
here,
Yeomans. Yeah.
Because you block literally every flush. What the hell does he have? Queen 10 of clubs?
Right.
There's no.
It would be a really weird way to. That's what I'm saying, is that you aren't going to put anyone on a nutted flush like Queen 10, because Queen 10 was betting flop.
Should not have a flush here ever.
I agree.
As but played. DD and Yeomans could. Yeah. All right,
so
let's see what's up. Yeomans bets pot. Holy hell! All right, we're probably just gonna flat here. Yeah.
I don't mind the flat at all. I think that's
another. So I mean, we're praying for a club here. I'm actually really worried, to be honest with you.
That's an interesting question.
Yeomans would potentially do this some of the time with the king of clubs, but
we have the king of clubs.
The jack, he would have bet ace jack on the flop.
Yep.
Are we putting him on ace 10, ace 9 exactly? If he does, we don't expect him to bet this, unless he just decides to run a bluff against 2 players when they just flat him, which looks pretty strong.
When you bet pot. You bet pot.
So I think if he bets here, I think you have to fold. He bets. You can't call here. Don't call. Don't put in the call, Jamie. Oh my god. I don't care. I don't care if you block the nuts. You are beat here. You're beat. Oh my god.
Yeah. So this was the interesting question that came up, where go ahead and click that off, because here's what I said. And I made the contention to Anonymous that he could have jammed that river, but I didn't realize that they were 3 ways. I didn't realize that DG was still in the hand on that river. And given that this is
Queen of clubs is not folding with 39k back. If he has Queen 8 of clubs, which I do think bets flop, he could have Queen Deuce of clubs though. He's in a small blind.
He's got such a wide range.
Any combination with the Queen of clubs, and that does not fold. I don't fold. I don't care if it's for my tournament life. First of all, it's like a $25 tournament. I'll snap call with the second nuts. Absolutely. Yeah. I think he wow. Yeomans betting pot into 2 people. I am disappointed.
Strong.
I'm disappointed. Ace 10. Do you really think you're good here with Ace 10? What do you think's calling you? There's 4 to a straight. You absolutely turned your hand into a bluff.
And that's the funny part is
I hope you realize you turned your hand into a bluff.
if he had, I don't think I can get behind him betting flop into 4 people with Ace 10, not containing a club. But if he had bet flop, I think this then makes it very, very hard to lay down, or this makes it easier for you to lay it down when he goes pot on the river. Because also, if he had bet flop and then sized up turn, SPR would probably be a little different on this river as well. Yeah. It's but this is a tough spot. And I think that Jamie holding the king of clubs, but you're right in that because it's Yeomans and because he's in the small blind specifically and was flatting pre-flop, he can show up with a lot of those junky club combos that are just going to snap your shove.
If it's Queen Deuce, Queen 3 of clubs, he's calling.
He can have that too, right? From the small blind with open flat. Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
So I don't look to raise because I don't think you get value from anything. I even think 7-8, 7-10 a club, stuff like that can still call you, honestly.
Right. But I mean, don't check flop with the nuts next time.
Yeah, I mean, nice hand, you want a pot, but like ace 10 isn't folding for a medium, and then you get out like this. I mean, and C4. I wonder what the hell he had, but yeah. Wow. Okay. Nice hand, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't like how you played it, but I'm shocked. Yo, mans, if you're watching this, shoot me a text.
Tell me what you were thinking, homie.
Thump you on the back of the head next time I see you. Wow.
Yeah.
But crazy.
Craziness.
But yeah, fun podcast. Thank you very much, Fog, for coming on. We just hit the hour mark, just about like the podcast we want to have.
Perfect.
Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any suggestions for stuff you want covered, please shoot it our way. Any constructive criticism we're very open to. Please send us hands. We don't want to nag people on Instagram, nag people in our hand history lounge. Just shoot them our way. You know when the podcast is. A lot of you guys watch. Thank you again, Ryan, for doing a lot of the brunt work for this podcast.
You're very welcome, as always.
It's been a little lazy.
It's all good.
But yeah, thank you all, and see you next week.